What is up, everybody? It is the fourth episode of the Pinch Hitter Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Ottaminelli, with my co-host, Colorblind Bastard, Justin Rochat, and the Lisa Ann Pursuer, Christopher King. We are excited. Why the fuck are we excited? Because we're coming off an interview with Pedro Gomez, and did you see the fucking background that guy had? Holy shit. It looked like I was playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And
That's living.
Additionally, we got the GOAT waiting in the wings to join the show, Huston Street, the two-time All-Star reliever, 2005 Rookie of the Year. He's waiting. We got him ready. We are good to go. We are about to add him. Is everybody ready for this?
Let's fucking go.
Let's
I'm
go.
ready, man. Let's get
Let's
it.
go. Justin,
Fucking
let's start
go,
fucking
man.
creeping the guy out, all right? You already look like a serial killer.
Oh, man.
Here he is.
That haircut.
We're adding Huston Street.
Shit.
Uh-oh, can you see me?
Oh, we can't see you yet, Houston.
Come on, video. There we
There
go.
we
Oh,
are.
there you go.
Houston, how are you doing, man?
Good, how are y'all?
Good. We're excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Wow, 100%. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm just sitting here in my house watching my wife and my little boy play on the hammock, so we're
So you're
the
good to go.
quarantine is not terrible.
We're
Yeah.
just getting through some technical difficulties really quick over here, so just bear with us, Houston. As you know, these are not the most ideal circumstances to be holding.
It's kind of perfect, though. Everybody needs something to do.
Yes.
That's true.
First off, thank you so much for coming on the show. We had Pedro Gomez on yesterday. He said to say hello.
Oh, I love Pedro. He's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, he's great.
How are you doing? How's everything going with you in regards to the coronavirus? How are you and your family managing?
We're good. We went into self-quarantine on March 12th, which was more my doing than anything. I'm just kind of I was like, the whole world shut down, guys. I think it's time we might want to pay attention. And so, well, we were lucky enough. We had four families at the time. And we were all going to be real disciplined and real stringent with our, social distancing. And so, but four families turned into three families, turned into two families. And then we all kind of went our separate ways. And then you kind of get sick of that. And so after about 8 weeks, it's like we've done all the discipline. I think we're all ready to just punt the rules and to see each other again.
Exactly.
Well, we can't do it. It's miserable.
It's brutal, and but it's eerie when you go out around, like you run to the store and whatever, and it's like a ghost town, right?
In a way, 100 years from now, or 60 years from now, I hope I'm still alive and I'll be telling people, yeah, I lived through that. It's spooky, and I'm worried. Frankly, I'm very worried for the economy. I'm worried for a lot of people and their jobs. I think our government's doing the best they can do. But yeah, it's a pandemic. Like, I remember when they announced it, yeah, we have a pandemic. I was like, let's take this for real. Like, and, but now, there's been a lot of lives lost. It's, the one thing that is supposed to be foolproof is baseball. From Field of Dreams, that classic line, baseball with the voice, where he's just like, baseball has stood the test of time. World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Korean War, like Cold War. Baseball, there was always baseball. And there is no baseball right now. I think that is it's sad. This whole situation is, at the end of the day, is extremely sad. And I feel for all the people going through it.
Yeah, hopefully there's a quick fix. Hopefully we have an end in sight soon, because we all want to get back to reality. Everybody's getting stir crazy,
I'm with you.
That's it. We want to go right into, tackling the career of Huston Street. Houston, personally speaking, you were one of my guys when I was growing up. I loved you as a player, man. I remember one time you came to Citi Field and you're tossing, warming up in the outfield before the game, and I called out to you. I remember this distinctly because not a lot of player interaction. And I said, Houston, when the expletive are the Mets going to trade for you? And you said, I'm waiting on my agent to call me and let me know I'm on the move. And, you know,
I
it never
actually kind of
happened.
remember that. That was like, what, 2011 or something?
Yeah. And that was,
Yeah, because I remember that the Mets were supposed to trade for me, and I talked to TC about it, Terry Collins, and maybe it's 2012, right around the All-Star game, and I think they were going for me, and it didn't happen, and I was so I actually was excited about getting traded. I was on the Padres that year, but ended up signing back with the Padres.
yeah. I mean, I even before, you know, like, we go back all the way back to 2008. I was like, that'd be a guy that be nice closing games in Flushing. I can tell you that. But
Thanks, man.
you're welcome. Wanted to ask you right off the bat, coming up, you know, and winning the Rookie of the Year. Can you speak
Mhm.
to the elation of that? You know, kicking the career off with a bang. What's
Yeah,
that feeling like?
I think the cool thing about winning the Rookie of the Year is you only get 1 year to do it. Like, it's your rookie year. Um, I'm thankful for it because if you look at my career, the next, especially years 3 and 4, were kind of down to mediocre years with the A's injury. Was always injury prone. Let's just be honest. Uh, always injury prone. Sorry out there for all the fantasy people who had me all those years. 9 was good, 14 was good some other years, but you know, that year was such a special team. I still have so many friends, Dan Heron, Barry Zito, Joe Blanton, from that team. Um, that year was we were a special group, and we went on to go to the ALCS the next year. Uh, you know, I give a lot of credit to the Rookie of the Year to a guy named Octavio Dotel, who we all remember with the Astros and had a phenomenal career himself. But he was a closer when I got there, and he really took me under his wing. He really showed me a good time, and he never belittled me, and he taught me a lot about the idea of closing. Um, as a rookie, being 21, and like, hey man, you're the closer. Like, you're the guy. Like, Friday night, like, you're in your bedroom. Saturday night, you're in your bedroom. Like, and when you're 21 and last year you were in college, now you're in the big leagues. That's good advice. That's
Yeah.
very good advice. And he ended up getting hurt in May of that year, and I ended up taking over the job. But I think I beat out Robinson Cano for it, who was also very deserving. But any award in Major League Baseball is a big deal. But that award, I still got the trophy here at the house. I think it meant a lot to me because you only get 1 year to do it. And as a closer, winning an award like that is a team award. I would have only won Rookie of the Year if we played a tremendous second half. And but I did. I got it done. I don't know. I think probably my favorite accomplishments were still the playoff teams. Those were still my favorite. But Rookie of the Year is something that, it's kind of one of those things that you'll always be Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, nice to look on, and it kind of segues into my next question. How you your favorite moments you said are like those playoff appearances.
Yeah.
Being in a high leverage situation, closing games. Is there one particular moment you identified over your career, maybe pitching in the playoffs or pitching in a different game during the regular season? One game that you identified that you got out of a jam and you're like, wow, I'm stoked. This is what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the playoffs in '09 was probably one moment where I failed. That still sticks with me today, but probably motivated me more than any other moment. In particular, the moment I had already blown the save in the fourth game, and Jason Worth was batting, and I think it was a 2-2 slider, and I remember thinking in my head I didn't want to go 3-2, and I didn't pull the slider all the way down because I didn't want to go 3-2. I knew I had him. I struck him out already a few times in my career on sliders. I figured just throw a good slider, you'll get him out. We'll go in the dugout tied. And I know you want like my favorite moment getting out of a jam, but sometimes I think it's the moments that you fail in that stick with you the longest, where you go, and that team that year had a chance to win the World Series, and people like, do you still, I think you remember when you're playing in your career, you hear players say all the time, I'm not worried about that. I'm not thinking about that. That was 4 years ago, 6 years ago. You truly aren't. You don't have time to process and remember your failures and have regrets. When you're retired, they turn into regrets. You know, you're like, God dang it, I wish I would have got that done, and it hurts. It still hurts. And letting, not getting the job done in that moment for my team is for sure the biggest regret I have in all of sports. Maybe only second to not winning the state championship football game in high school, but that's Texas high school football, right? But that moment in and of itself, though, taught me to always trust yourself, right? It's okay to bury the slider 2-2. He'll swing and miss. Don't just try to get out of the inning. Finish the inning. Make the pitch. Trust yourself. Compete. A lot of things that came from that moment were based on the feeling when I threw the slider. And he hits it off. It's a bloop over the second baseman's head, but we end up losing 5-4. I get taken out of the game. I'm sitting on the bench, and there's a picture of me like with a shaved head. I was thinking, you should have finished the pitch. You should have trusted your gut. You should have thrown the strikeout slider. It's the playoffs, But you make mistakes. You make mistakes as a closer. You make mental mistakes. And if you don't learn from them, then the game pushes you out. And I learned a lot from that mistake. And really took it with me. I was scared to finish a pitch and go 3-2.
Going back to that, actually, to I guess a highlight back to 2012. Can you just bring us back to that moment you found out you were first going to be an All-Star?
Oh, that was sick, man. That was so cool. Buddy Black called me in the office, and I started tearing up. I was tearing up. I mean, rookie of the year, cool, all-star. Like, you're an all-star. You were an all-star when you were 8. You were an all-star when you were 12. You get to high school, it's all state or all district. College, you want to be all-American. The big leagues, you're an all-star. Like, saying they're all versions of the same truth, which is like it's a representation of like I'm one of the best that are here. And for that particular year. And I felt like going into 2012, 2005, 2009, 2011 were all years that I thought I actually thought I was going to make the All-Star team all through all of those years. I believe in 2011 I was like leading MLB in saves, but I had like a 4 ERA. And I didn't make the team. And so when you want to make the team all those years, you recognize how hard it is to actually make the All-Star team. Like, the guys that are perennial all-stars make it look easy. It's hard to make an all-star team. Trust me. I wanted it so many years. And you look year after year, how many guys are so deserving that didn't make it. And that's what makes it special. So when Buddy Black said, hey, you're going to the all-star game. I mean, I did. I didn't break down crying, but it was like I had tears in my eyes. And I told him, I said, come here, let me give you a hug. And I just gave him the biggest hug in the world. Because those are the moments that it's the little kid stuff. That's the little kid stuff that you can truly only get from playing Major League Baseball or professional sports, where you get to be, golly, how old was I in 2008? I was 28, I think I was 28. You feel like you're 7 again. That first time when they tell you made the All-Star team, you're like, what? I made the All-Star team? Cool, yeah. You're 7. That's exactly how I felt in that moment.
Yeah, and throughout your career, you're basically a late inning reliever, closer, and but since you left the game with 2017, the game's pretty much evolved, for lack of a better word, where teams are changing and managers are changing how they're managing the bullpen.
Right.
Can you just give us your thoughts on having an opener or the bullpenning term in today's game?
I think the high leverage situation is a joke. What is a high leverage situation? Is that in the 7th inning? Is that in the 8th inning? Is that in the 4th inning? Like, when is the big moment? To me, there is a truth that exists in the other dugout when they know you've got John Wetland, and I'm using an obscure Yankees team, right? But like John Wetland and Mariano, right? Mariano wasn't closing. The team wins the World Series because they know the game's over after 6 innings. It's over, right? Well, what does that do to hitters in the fourth inning and the fifth inning? Does that change their approach? Of course it does. Does that change the way the managers, do they sub out their starting pitcher when they're down by 3 after 4? Yes, they do. Now you're going to face a weaker reliever, maybe in the Friday game or the Saturday game. Like, there's so many elements to having an established bullpen with roles that ends up making your team better and more consistent. And I think you end up getting wins. To me, the hardest role in all of baseball is the fifth and the sixth inning down by 2. That guy who has that role has to pitch, be ready to pitch all the time. And that's what modern baseball sometimes negates with the roles in the bullpen is I don't snap my fingers and if I said to any one of y'all, all right, take off sprinting right now, odds are one of you pulls a hamstring, right? Like, we're not warmed up, we're not loose. It's okay. That's how our bodies are as relievers. Like, you don't just get to say, come in the game and get them out. Like, I gotta stretch. I gotta jump. After 130 games, I'm pretty sore. You know, the zero roll bullpen is a nightmare for your bullpen because the beauty for me as a closer, most of the managers I played for believed in the established closer, which means at the first through the fourth inning, I'm hanging out in the dugout. Fourth through the fifth inning, I'm getting my massage, getting to put my heat pad on, getting to do this. Well, if I'm a high leverage bullpen guy, I got to be down in the fifth so that I'm down there doing my stretches and my active routine so that I might come in the seventh. Oh, but you don't need me in the seventh? Well, let's play it out a different way. 2 outs, nobody on. Or, excuse me, no outs, guys on first and second, right? Call down, get him hot, right? 11 pitch at bat, you get almost all the way hot because you're in for the next hitter. And then the 12th pitch guy rolls over into a double play. This happens all the time. 7 pitch, double play. All of a sudden, it's not a high leverage situation anymore. You're down. Now you were 1 pitch away on a 3-2 count from having bases loaded up by 3 in the 7th inning. Now we got to bring in our high leverage guy. Now we got a runner on third, 2 outs, and you're up by 3. That ain't it. All right, hey, sit back down, right? What, you think that's not going to take an effect? Do you think you did that to me on Tuesday and Wednesday? You think there's a reason I blew the game on Friday? And you see it all the time, guys stuff. Or do you think maybe there's a reason why closers aren't lasting for 7 or 8 years anymore, or relievers aren't lasting? Well, they're wasting all their bullets in the pen. And I just think that the game has learned that, they I don't think they care, frankly. I think they want as many. They're going to bring up all these 100-mile-an-hour guys and burn them out for 4 or 5 years at a time, and that's a different strategy that works. But the best teams are always going to pay for the best relievers, and the best managers, in my opinion, are always going to have an established bullpen.
I mean, yeah, you can even look at a guy like Miller. I think he was burned down by the Yankees and Indians too, and now
Great
he's 36,
example.
37, and he can't go anymore.
Great example. I mean, you want to talk about some of the most electric stuff in all the game, and I mean, we all remember that playoff. I mean, that was one of the most iconic playoff performances of all time, Andrew Miller. And was that the reason? Was that not the reason? I'm not blaming anybody. And I would tell you, he would be the first guy to say he probably volunteered to do it. I know I would have. I mean, playoffs are worth it. But the playoffs are different too, though, right? Do that to somebody for a full season and see how quickly they burn out. That's a different animal. This idea of I got to pitch the 7th today, the 9th. Respect to all the guys who do it and do it successfully, because it's way harder than what I had to do. Pitching the 9th inning, in all seriousness, is one of the easiest jobs in all of sports. You just have to deal. You just have to deal with the newspapers the next day. But at the end of the day, I'm walking into an inning that I know I'm going to pitch. I've got the lead, and they have to score to even beat me. I mean, and they don't even beat me, because you can blow a save if the team wins the game in the bottom half of the inning. You walk away scot-free. The hardest part about closing, in my opinion, the hardest part about being a closer is not being a closer. Closing one game is easy. It's keeping your job for a decade, because as a closer, you can't mess up for 2 or 3 weeks at a time on a winning team. They find somebody new to bring in. So to me, the hardest part about being a closer is not actually getting a save. It's keeping your job with any kind of longevity. And that, to me, if you ask me what I'm most proud of in my career, and my biggest regret, they're the same thing. It's my save total. My goal was always 400 saves. I didn't get there, and because I was too fragile, frankly. But I'm very proud of 324 saves. That's, to me, that was like, I pushed myself to the limits. I mean, I can barely throw 70 miles an hour now if you ask me to. My elbow and shoulder are so messed up, but it was worth every second of it.
Yeah, I guess sticking with today's closers and relievers, everyone's throwing 100+ miles an hour now, 96,
I know.
97. And but you were never considered a power pitcher. You were always a finesse guy. That's why I always liked you, because you had a nasty slider, nasty changeup. Are there any I guess finesse closers or late inning relief pitchers that you kind of like caught your eye?
Joe Smith is still doing it. Man, he's
Former
still
Met.
doing it.
Former Met.
Yeah, it bothers me that he's still playing. He's one of my best friends, and I think you know, he's supposed to pass me in service time this year, but they ain't playing baseball, so I mean, as of right now, we're still golden. Joe Smith, Luke Gregerson. Gregerson is another guy who I just always had a profound amount of respect for. You know, these are guys in my time period. You know, I think you got to look at. I mean, Eckersley was a guy who had power stuff, but towards the end of his career did not. Phenomenal, you know, Hall of Famer for a reason, with his starting accolades. And, you know, you look at Goose Gossage, gets in the Hall of Fame with 300 saves, but was a guy who could go 2 2/3 all the time, lots like extended type innings, you know. Mariano, Trevor Hoffman,
Yeah,
saves number 1, saves number 2. I mean, people always remember Trevor Hoffman throwing 98 at the beginning and Mariano throwing 100 at the beginning, but they got their last 300 saves both throwing under 92. You know, and Mariano would run it back up to 93, 94 at times, but you know, I think the game will revert back to the. I think the game, I should say, well, baseball is baseball. This is my philosophy. If I was a GM, this would be my philosophy. There is a truth to baseball, which is a baseball player. You know, Mike Trout is a baseball player. There's a reason he doesn't hit 75 home runs. He's not just trying to hit homers, right? But so he's batting 313 and he's one of the best of all time. But being a pitcher is a baseball element. Throwing 102 is cool. It's
yeah.
cute and it's hard to hit. But do you actually know where it's going? Do you know what you're doing? Can you do it for 12 years? Can a GM actually wake up on April 1st and go, I know that guy knows what he's doing with the baseball? Seems to me like there's a lot of hoping going on. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's just a lot harder to hit 100 miles an hour. And so, but Mariano and Trevor Hoffman, they knew what they were doing with the baseball, the changeup, the cutter. Mariano didn't just throw his cutter 95 his whole career. He was throwing it 87 his last 200 saves, 89, dotting it up, and putting up some of the best numbers of his career. When you go look at some of his seasons at the end, they were some of his best seasons. And so to me, I crafted my game about doing everything on purpose, really knowing what I was doing. I can't tell you how many times I talked to guys who are like, dude, you just threw me that first pitch cutter and you grounded out to short. And I can't tell you how many times I turned to my shortstop right before the first pitch and said, hey, I'm going to get you a ground ball right here. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and now let's take that to another level. I wanted to be able to save 5 games a week. Okay, well, I've looked ahead. It's Tuesday. So I'm trying to get a first pitch cutter out here. And they say, well, you never strike people out, Street. It's like, well, shit, I almost struck out 1 an inning. You know what I mean? I did for my career. That's not bad. But there were so many times where I'm looking ahead to the Thursday matchup and I'm like, we're probably going to lose that day, you know? So Tuesday I can pitch for strikeouts because Wednesday's a day game and I can go back to back if we don't. Or I look ahead to the Thursday matchup and I go, we're probably going to win that game. We're probably going to win Wednesday, which is a day game. I'm coming in this game. I need a first pitch out on this guy. I need a 12 pitch inning. I need a 12 pitch inning. And, I think I mean I think that was what actually kept me in the game longer was there were so many times where you see guys go out there and strike out the side but throw 26 pitches, and then they're hurt 3 years later. And all my injuries, I never had the big ones. The one that ended my career at the end was my shoulder went out, and with my lat and everything else. But it lasted 13 years because I knew exactly what I was doing with the baseball. And if I was a GM, I'd go back to searching the minor leagues for guys that are 91 to 94 that know what they're doing with the baseball, but are pitching and they're never throwing a baseball as hard as they can. I very rarely in my career threw a baseball as hard as I could on the mound. I was pitching. And you talk to starters all the time. That's how they do it. They pitch. That's why when you see a starter go to the bullpen, he can throw 102 miles an hour because he's finally throwing as hard as he can. There's so many elements to the game that I just find beautiful, and that's why there's so many different opinions on how to beat it.
Yeah, and
I'm
Ethan
glad.
Hernandez always
I'm glad.
says. Ethan
I'm glad you were
always
speaking
says that
to
if you
human
throw
element
100 miles
there.
an hour, it doesn't matter how straight it has. If it's straight, they're gonna hit it. They're Major League Baseball players. They need movement.
If you throw 130, they'll figure it out. The other thing you got to remember is if you don't know where it's going and they time it up, is it skill or is it are you just beating them? You know what I mean? Like, I guess it's skill, but I call it talent. Like you're just betting on talent. You're betting on horses. You know, uh, but the best jockeys are the best jockey can take a lesser horse and win the Triple Crown or win the Kentucky Derby. I look at baseball players as jockeys. I want to find the jockey who knows how to run the race and can play with this horse. He can play when he's throwing 92, 96, 91. That's the way I kind of see it. But I got accused of seeing it that way because that served my purposes very, very well. So I was constantly arguing for players like me.
I'm glad, Houston, that you spoke to the human element there briefly. And as fans, we love players going, getting the big name guys, the big money guys. But as somebody who also bounced around, can you speak to the humanity of being traded and having to go across the
Yeah.
country at the drop of a hat at somebody else's decision?
Well, one sneak peek into every player's mindset. It is a lot of fun getting traded in July when you're leaving a losing team going to a winning team. We might pretend to be sad, but we are so excited because we show up every April and we want to win. The sadness hit. I mean, you have teammates. The humanity side of it is it's a business, and the mature players see it as that. You fall in love with people every single organization you go to. There are beautiful people all throughout the game of baseball. So many people I've met and loved and cherished. Some you keep in touch with for longer than others. Some I don't talk to anymore, and I miss them, and I still think about them. You hear a lot of players talk about what they miss most is the clubhouse. And sometimes you get traded from one clubhouse on a losing team to a different clubhouse, and you're like, man, I miss that losing team so much. They had a great clubhouse. And, our Padres teams were like that. We had such a phenomenal clubhouse. We had so much fun on those teams. We really did. And the Angels had a phenomenal clubhouse too, especially our 2014 team and our 2015 team. I was hurt for 16 and 17, but getting traded from the A's, I think needed to happen. Me and Bob Guerin were not seeing eye to eye, which has been publicized, which is frankly something I regret in my career. I don't know if I've said that on camera openly. I've said it to people privately, but I think I handled that situation poorly as I was in my interview that I gave. I said all the words. I wish I just would have been more mature to realize that managers and players could have disagreements. And he wasn't necessarily wrong to treat me the way he treated me. I think he was probably right when you go back and look at the way Brad Ziegler pitched in 2008 and the way I pitched. So that trade was a trade that I think was probably good for everybody involved. And I did apologize to Bob once, actually, at the Met Stadium, and just told him, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I wish I would have handled that. I wish I would have handled that better, because he's a good man. He is, and he's a great father. Great. 2000, the team I got traded from, when I got traded from the Rockies, that was blindside, and so sometimes you get traded and you don't know. You're like, I was actually sitting in a room with my account. We were going over some numbers. My agent called me, Alan Hendricks, and was like, "Yeah, you got traded to the Padres." I'm like, "What? What?" And he goes, well, he actually said, hey, he goes, "Hey, you just got traded. Do you know where?" And I go, "Please just tell me I didn't get traded to Cincinnati," because I think I pitched amazing in Cincinnati in that ballpark. But I was a fly. If you go look at my numbers, I'm actually like a fly ball pitcher, and I was scared to death every time I took the mound there. And so I was like, "Please." And he's like, "Well, they're a winning team." I'm like, "I don't care. I'm scared to pitch there. I hate that place. I hate it." He goes, "No, you got traded to Petco." And I'm like, "The best place in the world to pitch." I was like, "Career revival. Here we come." And it actually worked out that way.
So I know that so the Rockies was a place that you wanted to. Was there somewhere else that you had in mind over the years of trade deadlines and bad teams looking for a good reliever that you wish would have happened?
This is the chance to
for
say the
sure.
Mets, Houston. This is the chance to say the Mets.
Actually, I told you, 2012 at the All-Star game, I talked to Terry Collins. I thought I was getting traded to the Mets, because I just gotten traded to the Padres, and that was a fun team. That team had some good players. There was a year in 2007. I thought I was going to get traded to the Brewers. I think that would have been cool. I'm trying to think. I heard rumors in 2012 I was also going to get traded to the Red Sox. But I can't remember who their closer was at the time. And that was a contract year for me. So I was kind of like, no, I don't want to go to I don't want to, because I was going to be like their seventh inning guy. And back then was kind of before they valued seventh inning guys. Thank God they do now, because those guys are more games are won and lost in the seventh, which gives credence to the idea of bringing a closer in the seventh. But really, it just means you need to. You should be able to cultivate three relievers. Call one the seventh inning, one the eighth inning, and your ninth inning guy, needs to be a guy that can get lefties and righties out equally. That's the only difference. The seventh inning guy needs to be a guy that is like more of a strikeout pitcher, and you don't care if he walks people, but he can get you out of damage situations. Bases loaded. You bring me in later in my career, bases loaded, nobody out. You're asking for trouble. Like that's like I would fully support a manager being like, "Yeah, Street, we had to go with the strikeout guy." You're striking out like 6 per 9. So I get that. Like that's where you have to like kind of usurp the closer and take his job away from him. Because you just don't fit the mold right now, Street. And so that's why I told all my managers, I was like, "Listen, like, if you want to use me the best, give me a complete inning. I will find a way." And there was actually an inning where Bud Black and I laughed about it. We're playing the Marlins, and 1-run lead, and I had Stanton and God, I can't think of the guy's name. I can see his stance and his at bat, and I owned him. And but he was leading the big leagues in RBIs at that point in the season, which was like April 18th. But my rule of thumb was always, if they're hot, they're hot. Like I'd rather face Albert Pujols in a slump than face the 9-hole when he's hot. Like when major league hitters slump, they slump. And so I literally walked the bases loaded to get to the at bat I wanted with 2 outs and a 1-run lead. And Blackie was like, "You walked those guys on purpose, didn't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, they're all rock. They're all like on fire hot, Blackie. They're like all batting 500." And I was like, "That's why I was a good closer, was because I was willing to put myself in a bases loaded situation just to get the save." And that's also why I got traded all the time. You were wondering what I was talking about. I was leading this. I was going to tie it all back into the trade idea. Because I was kind of I think one year they branded me in Colorado. It was Troy Rink who did it, in fact. He said it was like a roller coaster ride. Street takes us. And I remember Dan O'Dowd, my GM, actually repeated it to me in conversation. And I was like, Dan, you've been reading the papers too much, man. Like, because I think it was 2011, and I was like 29 for, I think I was 26 for 28 or 20. Yeah, 20. I had 26 saves at the break and only 2 blown saves. But like I said, like a 4 ERA. So it was a roller coaster ride. Yeah, and I got traded to the Padres after that season. So I didn't necessarily. I wasn't. Sometimes I was fun to watch 3 up, 3 down, but sometimes there was more going on out there. It wasn't like, I mean, I didn't throw 96 with a filthy slider, but I still had an ERA under 3, so I'm pretty proud of that.
We were talking about that yesterday, actually. You look at guys who, at the end of their career, and to finish with an ERA under 3, regardless of how long your career was, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Thank
so
you.
Kudos to that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was curious because you mentioned earlier that you said your biggest regret was not reaching that something like that 400 save
For sure.
milestone. I was gonna implore you and ask as to whether you don't consider not pitching in a World Series a bigger regret. Is that
no? I would say individually, my biggest regret in life will be not winning a World Series.
Okay.
Yeah, I only wanted to win a World Series. Yeah. But I had a personal goal of 400 saves when I started. And I remember Ray Fosse and I used to sit at my locker and talk about it. He was actually the one who gave me the idea to save every single one of my saves balls, which I used to have. But now I have 3 boys. So, I'm not sure where they all are. Some of them are probably under the couch. But yeah, my wife, going back to almost getting traded to the Red Sox, I remember in 2012 thinking, and I'm like, well, there's never any chance you get to win a World Series. So if it happens, so be it. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But yeah, I wanted 400 saves simply because I thought that was my best chance to get in the Hall of Fame. And if you ain't playing to be a Hall of Famer, then I don't know why you're playing individually. I mean, why would you not play to be the best you can be? And if your best is only 1 year in the big leagues, that's also okay. That's the best you could be. I think that I probably would have to get up in the upper echelon of the 400s and keep that ERA under a 3 to qualify. But I was just hurt so much, and I honestly, I'm only 36. I'm in pretty good shape, but I fell out of love with the game. My last 2-3 years, I did. I started missing my kids. I started missing, my sons were 5, 3, and 1 at the time, and I didn't want to get the shoulder surgery to. And I remember talking to my wife about it and just being like, yeah, I think it's time for me to retire my dreams and help my kids chase theirs. And so, but if you had told me, hey, Street, we can guarantee that you'll play on a team, and AJ Hinch and the Astros can attest to this. I called them a bunch in 2016, 17, or 2017. That offseason, 18, 19 was guys to throw again in January if y'all are going to win the World Series. Again, I didn't know they were listening to trash cans. I would love for y'all to go back and see if there were any trash can sounds in 2015, because I think I gave up like 24 earned runs in the whole year, and like 19 to the Astros. They owned me. I can't say they were listening to me. I didn't pitch enough in 16 and 17 for it to matter. And the one day that I gave up a 5 spot to them, I damn sure know there weren't any trash cans because I just was terrible that day. But those guys are still all my friends. I mean, that's a touchy for me. And it was a horrible thing that happened. You know, I'd probably be saying the same thing if I was them. If I was on that 2017 championship team, you know, I don't know what to say about it. I wish they wouldn't have done it, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's one of those stories that it's going to live with the game, but eventually everybody, something else will happen. We'll move past it. We will.
Yeah, you know, I do think they're kind of getting what they deserve a little bit with the quarantine happening. So it's not like they're, it's kind of living longer than it should have. You know what I mean? But I'm so conflicted on that issue.
On a lighter note,
I know. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to make it heavy.
On a lighter note,
you gotta transition, man. You gotta save me when I go down that rabbit hole. You gotta save me, transition me out, bro.
We're doing it.
You kind of set us up because we were the next couple of questions are lighter noted, so we appreciate that.
There you go.
I will take a lot of shit for this, Houston, if I don't ask it. So I'm gonna ask it. Can you tell all of my friends who are gonna listen to this podcast what it was like being teammates with Mike Trout, and does the back of his head still look like a thumb?
Oh my God, I forgot about that tweet. Where I posted a pic. Did I do a tweet of that where I made his head look like a thumb?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if he appreciated that as much as I did. He is I cannot say enough good things about Mike Trout. If I had to say anything, it would be from the instant that my children walked in the clubhouse, he was the kindest person to them. It's not fake. And let me assure you, fans, there's a lot of fake superstars out there where they play sweetheart up front and they are nothing. There's not a whole lot of sweetness to them. Mike Trout, I call him the humble superstar because that's what I think he is. I think he stays humble. I think he's got a fire inside him that he wants to win so bad. But he's every bit as real and kind and hustle and plays through pain and tough. Yeah, he's first round draft pick teammate. You know, Troy Tulowitzki is probably the only other teammate that I played with that I've witnessed truly change a game, change a month. You know what Tulo did for us in 2009 and some of the other seasons. He was able, you know, when he was and Trout obviously is at a different level. But he's the type of guy that can, you know, make 3 diving catches, throw 2 guys out, get 3 base hits, steal 2 bases, score 4 runs, and you know, you're not even wowed by it because you just kind of it's crazy playing with him how you just expect him to start doing the things he does. Like it becomes unsurprising. It's like he takes the I don't even know, like, out of wow. Like he takes it out of it. He makes it look routine. He is, I mean, for he's the best player I saw play the game in the 13 years I was up there. Not from you know, and I didn't get to see Frank Thomas in his prime. I got to play with him in 2006. Mike Piazza didn't get to see him in his prime. Play with him towards the end of his career. Bonds, I think, is in the conversation simply because he holds all the records. But you know, Bonds' numbers are kind of you know, beyond comparison. But Mike Trout, the way he goes about his business is equally as important to me, and why I have such a profound respect for him.
Yeah. With that, before I handle things over to my co-host Chris, I just wanted to piggyback off that kind of and just ask, I'm surprised up until this point, with the talent that a Mike Trout has, and you played in Anaheim to finish off your career. I mean, I know they added Rendon just this past offseason, but being that you were there, aren't you surprised that this team hasn't, exceeded some of the expectations, or hasn't been a lot more, a bigger playoff contender than they have since Trout's come up on the scene? I mean, he's only been to the playoffs once there, and I'm just surprised. I wonder as to what it is. I would think when you have somebody, an elite superstar, once in a lifetime type talent on the roster, that there'd be a more concerted effort from the front office to put the necessary pieces around him to make, to be like a fellow Los Angeles team, a perennial contender like the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of love for the Angels, and Artie Moreno. I mean, he paid me a lot of money and put a lot of trust in me, and I kind of let him down in 16 and 17, and I think that's kind of part of it. There were a lot of contracts that fell flat during some of those years. I was one of them. You look at Josh Hamilton, uh, you know, that was the 75. I mean, and I see it from both sides of the equation, right? Like, it's hard to ask an owner to lose $80 million on players that aren't even there. And oh, by the way, but just keep paying money. We
Yeah.
got to keep adding pieces. It's a business, and so maybe the timing of life just didn't quite work out to where they could add those pieces for Mike Trout. I mean, you look at my contract. What did I do in 16 and 17? Nothing. I was a waste of space, and I mean, it cost him $10 million. And trust me, as a player, you feel horrible about it. You're so thankful for your union in those moments, but it also, I think the owners sometimes need to give the credit. They take a ton of risk in giving out these contracts, and sometimes they fall flat, and sometimes there's consequences to that, and it means that Mike Trout doesn't get all the additions in the 15, 16, 17 seasons that he might have otherwise gotten, but there were contract issues. Um, and I don't think there's any surprise that when a lot of those contracts kind of fall off the books, you see a Rendon signing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, one thing about Artie Moreno, he is consistently shelled out a lot of money for baseball talent. He has been good for player contracts. And I don't think any player that says otherwise is wrong. I think a lot of it has to do with pitching injuries. You look at, Garrett Richards, the tragic loss of a friend, Tyler Skaggs, unforeseen things, going even further back with Nick Aidenhart.
Yeah.
But just injuries. CJ Wilson got hurt. Again, a piece with me, when I got hurt in 2016, I think I'd given up 1 run in 12 innings and pulled an oblique and tried to come back too soon and ended the year with like a 6.5 ERA because I was pitching hurt the whole time. I had to get knee surgery. I mean, those are sometimes where, as an owner, as a manager, as a staff, as a group, you make decisions that back. So, sometimes you take chances on, I guess the point in me in bringing that up, I always like to dog on myself and use myself as an example. But like, they gave me that contract before the 2015 season, and 2015 I 3 games, and 2016 I got 1, and I pulled my oblique, and for whatever reason I didn't back and come back. Hurt my knee, that hurt my shoulder the next year, and then I was done. It was like I went 40-40 done. Was it a bad sign when they signed me? I don't think so. I was asking for more money, and I thought I deserved it. But there's so many of those things that have happened throughout the Angels organization, specifically with Mike Trout, where I don't blame the GM, I don't blame the owner, I don't blame the training, I don't blame the managers. It just, they've been kind of hamstrung with bad luck and timing of contracts and the way things have sorted themselves out to where, but it'll come, it'll happen. And they gave Mike Trout that contract for a reason, and I think the Rendon signing was a genius signing. I really do. I think he's gonna bolster that lineup and be able to play third base. And then I think they've got some. I think you know. I think they're going to develop some players over there. But you got to pitch to win, man. I mean, like
Yeah.
you just got to have starting pitching to win. And you kind of look at the beginning of Mike Trout. Where Mike Trout that 2014 coincides. You know, Jared Weaver. Jared Weaver was the ace of that staff for a decade, and me and him kind of saw the end of our careers right at the same time. And and so when you have big pieces of your puzzle, your closer, your ace, other starting pitchers not perform, get hurt, pass away tragically, these affect an organizational output. And at the end of the day, Mike Trout cannot put an entire 25-man roster on his back. He can't hit 8 home runs a game. I mean, he just can't. It's baseball. He has done his part for sure.
And Houston, I'm glad you brought up Troy Tulowitzki, because being teammates down in Colorado, you guys are kind of different teammates now at
Yeah.
UT Hookham. So
Hookham.
what's that experience
I got my
like?
KD shirt on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
What's that been like transitioning to a different kind of role now?
The hardest part has been school. Honestly, I don't know if y'all know I'm the student assistant.
Yes.
I actually have a paper due tomorrow, research on Texas history, which should be easy. But I gotta start researching. I'll tell you that. It's helped me identify. But no, honestly, one, coaching at the University of Texas is a dream come true. Coach Pierce gave me the opportunity. And then Tulo came on right after me. Tulo is probably the best leader in the clubhouse I've ever been around in my career. And that's no disrespect to Mike Trout. He's the best player I've seen on the field, but Troy Tulowitzki is the best leader I've been around in the clubhouse. True, and bringing to the University of Texas the things he brought into the clubhouse there day in and day out. It was no surprise. A ton of credit to Sean and Philip and Coach Pierce. They were with the a lot longer, or more often, I should say. They did the bulk of the coaching, but Tulo, I would give all the rest of the credit to, because that dude just knows how to make people understand what it takes to win. And then he knows how to make people understand how to push themselves. And then he knows how to make people get it, whatever it could be. It's a different level that, Tulo taps into it in that individual and gets the most out of them, even if that's 238. He'll find a way to get these kids to bat 241, and you're like, how'd you get him to bat 241? That guy's terrible. But that's that. I love college. I love coaching in college, and I hope my players see this, because so many of them are terrible at baseball, and they need to hear it. These kids need to hear it. They need to understand how much harder they have to work. And here's the truth. When I was their age, I was also terrible at baseball. So it's no disrespect, right? I worked my butt off to get better and better and better and better and better and better. That's the reason why I have so many hours left as a student assistant, and I'm going to have to be one for like 9 years. But that's also part of the fun. You get to coach the kids, and you get to see their weakness, not like in the big leagues, because there's not a lot of weakness in the big leagues. There's plenty of weakness in the big leagues, and that's the difference between a 2-year guy and a 10-year guy. But at the college level, I mean, it's actually given me a really profound effect for evaluators, for pickers of talent. Like when we're like, how did you draft this guy over this guy? I can tell you how. They have no clue. And so those people that are the true pickers of talent, that are constantly going, the guys are like, he signed this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. You're like, I want to meet those people and go learn from them. What do you see? Because coaching the college game, you're painting with a much fatter brush, where you can get the same results from so many different types of players, and it's fascinating to me. I love it. I've loved every second of it. I was devastated this year when the season got canceled. I think the NCAA did the right and giving them all their eligibility for another year. I think it's going to play havoc with coaches on rosters and roster limits. And I think there's going to be a lot of kids in the middle that end up missing out, and I just so saddened by that. There's so many college kids that didn't get their college experience in the purest form. But I would tell those same kids, don't feel sorry for yourself. Figure out something you want to be great at. If it's baseball still, go do it. If it's not baseball, it's business. Do the best you can do at it. And that's also why I love college baseball, is because so many of these kids will not play baseball because they're terrible at baseball. but you can change their lives. You can take that same kid and who cares if he's not good at baseball? Maybe I can teach him how to work hard. Teach him the principle of the process, right? Teach him the process of what it, there was actually a quote that hung up that Dan O'Dowd put up for me in the training room. And I used to say, there is a universal truth to the process of doing things right. And my teammates, of course, being baseball players, didn't quite understand it. And I fancy myself a smart baseball player. That's why I pitched so slow. I could have been throwing harder the whole time, but then I never could have proven to anybody that I was actually a smart pitcher. So that's why I threw so slow. No, I'm just kidding. But I made this comment, and I mean, the person who gave me the hardest time about it was Tulo, actually. He was like, hold on, say that again. And I said, dude, there's a universal truth to the process of doing things right. He goes, that makes no sense. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I mean, that doesn't make sense, Street. And I was like, I think it does. And then by chance, put it on a plaque in the training room, which only made things worse for me in the clubhouse, not better. It wasn't like they were esteeming me with the plaque. My teammates, Dan O'Dowd actually understood it. That's why he was the GM. But I try to teach these kids that process, and there is a universal truth to doing things right. And as Augie Garrido, he was the one who taught me the idea of the process being the most important component of grades. It has nothing to do with performance. It is everything process that leads up to and then. Can you hear me?
So with all that said, yeah.
Oh, that's sorry.
We already know who's gonna do better on that paper coming up tomorrow, right? You're getting a higher mark than Troy, obviously.
Troy, here's what's wrong about the equation. Troy is the volunteer assistant, which means he doesn't have any school responsibilities whatsoever. You can only be the student assistant at your respective university. So I've been challenging Tulo to go be the student assistant back at Long Beach. One, he makes fun of me more than anybody else on planet Earth. Two, he uplifts me more than anybody, so I really don't want to see him go. And he lives like 4 houses down. Like, I mean, we're neighbors. Training school and doing online classes. He's like, I was shortstop. I signed a bigger contract than you. I don't need school. I'm like, dude, that's so humble.
Oh my God.
He doesn't say that. Tulo's super humble. I just made that up. But that's probably why he doesn't have to go back. Although, I mean, you want to talk about him getting the short end of the stick. He's still owed $14 million this year, and he's not going to get any of it.
Yeah. I wish I could say I feel bad, but 14 million, he'll,
Dude, let me say something. If I told you were going to make, if you had $100 million and I said you're going to make 14 million this year, and then I said, oh, I'm just kidding, you would still. He's not mad at all. I'm mad for him. Trust me. But I don't see money as something that's valuable at all, frankly. And I don't want to get existential on you guys. I don't know what this podcast is about.
Let's go deep, man. Who cares?
But money's a game. I mean, trust me, my dad said it perfectly when he said money causes more problems than it solves. And it will never make you happy. And that is one thing I love about Tulo is, I mean, I'm doing business deals all the time because I see money as a game. And Tulo's like, guy, why don't you just come grab your fishing pole, come with me, and we'll catch some bass in the lake. And that's why I say he is such a good leader, is because that's what I need in life. And you, to finish the question you asked about what is it meant to be around him, he's one of my best friends in the world who truly grounds me and balances me. You know, back in October, you know, back in last October, I was 30 pounds, 25 pounds heavier, and I was laying about my belly and having no abs. And well, I mean, you know how you fix that, right? You ground, because he holds you accountable at every level, and not very many people in life are capable of that strength.
Yeah, that's very true, very true. But sticking with the positive memories, um,
Yeah.
could you speak to how astronomically exciting it was to be at the Rose Bowl for Vince Young running it into the right pylon?
Oh my gosh, I remember where I was. I was with my dad, uh, my I was with my dad. I was with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, um, and my family, all my brothers, my mom, and I remember my dad being so focused. He wanted them to score so bad, and you could tell when he wanted it because he would get real quiet and real still. And I have never seen someone. I never saw him get as excited in that moment when Vince Young runs across, and God bless the photographer for snapping that photo, one of the most iconic sports photos, I think, just with the just such a beautiful picture. Um, and I mean, we all lost our minds, and it was kind of interesting because my wife now, she brought a friend to the game, and it's just another college football game. You know, she was like a 19-year-old girl at the time, and I was like 21, and she was like, her friends wearing all decked head to toe USC gear, sitting with us, in the University of Texas section, sitting with a street family. And when we got USC gear in our group, my dad, well, my dad had a field day with it. You know, like when we were on the way to the stadium, tried to kick her out of the car a couple times, like as a joke. Was told her he was going to make her walk. This poor little girl, and she's still one of our good friends to this day. But when VY crossed the game, he's one of the other better leaders that I've ever been around. He knew how to make his team better. But yeah, I that moment is probably one of my favorite moments in life because I got to share it with everybody that's important to me in my life. Was right then and there, and we were hugging and high fiving, and my dad had a tear rolling down his face. It was cool.
Nice. But Vince Young, very good. Not undefeated though. Not James Street level.
Thanks, man. That's cool of you to say. I would agree with you in that it 20-0 is pretty special. My dad was 20-0.
But what about 23-8? That's also impressive too, right? That's his college.
Well,
That's
Vince
his,
Young was a better quarterback. I'd tell my dad that. He's in heaven right now, but I'd tell my dad that to his face. I mean, Vince Young was a better quarterback, no doubt in my mind. I'm not sure Vince Young was. My dad would never agree that anyone was a better competitor, although Vince was. Anyone who's a Longhorn is good in my book. But Vince brought us a lot of fun memories. A lot of fun memories, and trust me, I love VY. I love him to death. But I'd still probably choose my dad simply because my dad's my hero.
Houston, speaking to something a little bit more personal, can you tell us a little bit about the Street 16 Foundation and what
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I founded it in honor of my dad right after he passed away. And we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't want people to give flowers, so they gave money. And then a bunch of people gave money, so we created a foundation. And, while we've only had one event, which was this past year. I'm still distributing money. So for all the foundations out there, I'm sorry, I'm still collecting money. COVID-19 hasn't been the best for foundations this year. And honestly, that's something that people should be thinking about, the charity world, because there's so many foundations out there that do so many good things. We focus on children in need, uh, and connecting kids with opportunity. And my idea is to run a fund to fund charities. So Street 16, we partner with other charities. The 4 charities that we partner with were RBI Austin, Ubuntu, um, Children in Conflict, and then the Nobelity Project. And so the Nobelity Project was a charity run by Turk Pipkin that does a lot of major projects in Africa, building schools, water projects. You've got Ubuntu, which is a public-private partnership that tries to actually create jobs and run a business. So they want to be a self-sustaining wheel, and so we raised them 150,000. We're going to give $200,000 to Children in Conflict, which is a sister charity to War Child. And before COVID-19, there were still wars going on in the world, and there were children that are displaced, and they need there's 2 million children displaced who need financing, and that's what Children in Conflict did. And then RBI Austin is probably my biggest passion. Matt Price, we're a Christian foundation, or RBI is Christian charity, which is just, we're not pressing the faith, we're pressing the positivity, we're pressing the love, we're pressing the forgiveness, not just the forgiveness of others, but the forgiveness of yourself. I think it's a very important concept for children to understand, that it's okay to make a mistake. You don't have to be perfect. And Matt, since I got involved, has grown it exponentially. And when I say since I got involved, that's just the timing of it. I had nothing to do with it. Matt Price is the genius behind it, plus the whole organization. So all I try to do with Street 16 is go to these charities and establish needs. Okay, so this is your need. Okay, then I ask, how much is it going to cost? And so my wife and I donated $1 million to RBI Austin, golly, 6 years ago, and we're paying that off in installments. And then our foundation donated $1 million to Children in Conflict, which we're going to pay off over the next 3 years. I think we've given them 600,000 of that money once I wire the money when we get all the money in from our foundation event. And then with RBI, I think we're right around halfway through our $1 million pledge. And so it's just about, to me, children is what I want to focus on, because I believe more than anything in confidence. And where does confidence come from is a question. But to me, it comes from a sense of security. It comes from a sense of trust. It comes from a sense of love. And so trying to build that security, build that love, and let those kids go to sleep at night with a better feeling of trust, that when they wake up in the morning, they'll be better off, or they'll be better off trusting that these people do care about me. So we're not so much the tip of the spear, but we're an organization that tries to identify other organizations, which allows us to keep our overhead super low. And my wife and I's yearly contribution is we just pay for the event. So I, I do not like charities that throw big fancy parties, and half of the raffle items paid for the party. I just think that's silly. Otherwise, because it sounds like you're just throwing a big party for yourself. So our contribution this first year is we pay for the party. So 100% of the proceeds that are brought on from the event go to the actual kids. So 100 cents on the dollars that we raise go to the kids, because my wife and I basically produce the event out of our own pocket, which is something I love to do. I love charity. I love giving. I think it's what we talked about money earlier. my favorite Bible verse. Forgive me. I'm, I have a very strong faith, but I think it's a profound principle is for unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required, which is Luke 12:48. And I think for all the athletes out there that are watching or listening, like when you're blessed with the life that I've been blessed with to play Major League Baseball, you owe it back. You owe the world. You owe it back. You have to pay it forward. Your money is not just for you to decorate things or yourself. It's to make other people's lives better, and that's what Street 16 really is all about. Is connecting kids with opportunity is our slogan, but I just want to see them smile.
Houston, I'm going to turn things over to my friend Chris to close things out on a
Yes,
live,
sir.
Yeah.
a great note. But for that though, we that's an awesome thing you do. So we appreciate as fans you using your platform in a
Well,
positive way. So thank you for that.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I thank all the people that show up and give. I tell everybody in the room, we couldn't get this done without your hearts. And so it's their hearts that gave the money and whatever they chose to give, I'm appreciative of. So I do think that charity going into out of COVID-19 is sensitive because there's so many worthwhile charities doing so many things, and we're seeing that. But yes, thank you so much for the compliment.
Yeah, Houston, we got deep. We got beginning career to end, post career. And
Uh-oh.
matters. We went.
You
Does
broke
that make
up,
this
Chris.
interview better?
You broke up, bro.
With all oh my God! Right in the
You
middle.
were lightening the mood, and we had a breakdown. And COVID-19 is slowing us down. I think it's my Wi-Fi actually.
I know. I think my router has COVID-19, but we went deep. We looked in each other's souls a little bit there.
I like it. Yeah.
But does that mean this is better than your Ryan Spielborg's interview?
Dude, I will never forgive him for that. That was just mean, wasn't it? He insulted my
Did you not know
child.
about that?
He insulted my child. That was my
Was
only
there
child at the time. Like,
Was there no like heads up that I'm gonna sandbag you really hard in this interview?
dude, he was ruthless. The guy was, and I was mad. I mean, I started off thinking it was funny, and then I got mad, and then we played it off. No, Spilly, Ryan is still one of my best friends to this day. I am constantly calling him, begging him. I would love for me and him to just go round and round with each other because we give each other such a hard time. I mean, at the end of the day, like on that team, Tula was like the godfather, and we were kind of like his, his captains, so to speak. But we indulged in those roles, and I mean, Spilly's just so dang creative. But yeah, that interview was just wrong, and mean, and I still don't appreciate it.
Oh man. Well, Houston, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you. We definitely view it as you paying it forward in a way.
Oh man, thank y'all for having me.
Man, we couldn't be more appreciative of spending a couple minutes out your day. And if you ever want to come up to New York and recreate the Houston Street skit, we will gladly do that.
Hey man, you would. I'm telling you, we were out there for a lot longer than they showed on camera to try to get someone to recognize me. So you might not want to invite me up for that. Maybe we'll just go eat somewhere on Huston Street.
Well,
Sounds good.
We're looking forward to episode 4 now, guys. Houston, once again, thank you for coming. Episode 5 now, actually. Thank you for coming on, Houston. It's been incredible. Your Pedro Gomez, gives credence to you being one of the better guys in the game, and we recognize
That's so
that
sweet
today.
of him.
All right.
He was someone I always enjoyed talking to. But thank you guys, and however I can help, thank you. That was a fun interview. That was awesome.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Thank
Be
you.
safe to you and your family, Houston. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Okay.
y'all take care. Hook 'em. See y'all.
Hook 'em.